Hello everyone, it's Devlog time again. The 50th Ludum Dare event happened during the first weekend of April, and this marks the 20th anniversary of the competition. This is only my third time joining in, but I definitely had a lot of fun and plan to keep doing them. The theme this time was Delay the Inevitable. Nothing really came to mind for this theme. I didn't have any ideas that I was immediately excited about. Luckily, some friends hopped into a chat to help me think. Hello, sir.
Let's make a fucking video game.
Our first ideas were not the best.
Maybe you could go dark with it and do like a population control game.
I'm putting your name next to that one. Just like, that's a Splinter idea. Yep, we might try not to go quite that dark. But we eventually came up with a Fruit Ninja meets Asteroids type of game. After listing out some of the details and the art requirements, I felt like this was definitely something we could do. The jam started at 9 p.m. for me, and brainstorming took quite a while. Typically on Friday night, I like to at least have the main mechanic researched and, get a warm fuzzy feeling that it's actually going to work. I hopped over to Unity to start building the prototype. Fruit Ninja style slicing isn't something I had ever done before, but it didn't seem like it'd be rocket science either. I spent about an hour making up a really rough version, just so that I could go to bed knowing that things would all work. And of course, with my programming skills, everything worked on the first... that was just a fluke, I think. Maybe the code hadn't finished compiling yet. Let's try again. Okay. Did I forget to set up which layers are allowed to detect collisions with each other? Nope, still broken. Aha! Unity wanted me to specify that I was looking for 2D collisions, because by default, it's going to look for 3D. That's a pretty simple error. I don't feel too bad about missing that one. I mean, it's not like I've made and sold commercial games and should know better. At this point, I like to evaluate if the idea is still worth pursuing. I find myself gravitating towards real-time action and fast-paced fun. I still like a good puzzle game or turn-based strategy, but when people are only going to play my game for like 10 minutes, I want them to get to the fun quickly. I hooked up a really quick score system, just +1 point for every meteor you slice through, and it already felt like a game. This was a promising start. I wrapped up the night by converting all the ideas from our whiteboard session into Trello tasks, so that I could organize and prioritize what I should work on. Saturday morning, I decided to deviate from my plan. Normally I want to get all the main programming and mechanics done, while my art is still just basic shapes. I decided to jump into art first, and apparently forget to record most of it. One thing I kept in mind though was a tip I received during the previous jam. Lucas VB says that good graphics happens pretty naturally if all the objects feel like they're part of the same world. They all need to follow the same visual rules. I knew I had no business going for photorealism, so I made sure to downgrade my reference images to an artistic level that I think I can maintain. This is about the time where I ran into a big bug. When we're moving the mouse around really fast, it's pretty easy to have the slice be on one side of an asteroid for a frame, and then skip all the way to the other side for the next frame. When this happens, there weren't any frames where the colliders overlapped, so the game doesn't register a hit. Fortunately, this issue is common enough that the Unity community, that's fun to say, has figured out a fix. When your fast-moving object updates its position, you check a raycast back towards its previous position. If this raycast hits any other objects, then we must have passed through it. With this fix implemented, you can slice as fast as you want and still get perfect hit registration. Luckily for me, Blender has a built-in function to generate random rocks. There's even a preset for asteroids. I generated 3 different models so I could have some variety. I still wanted the gameplay to be in 2D, but I had already started down the path of having 3D models with the Earth. This lets me spin the asteroids and gives some literal depth to the game. The next artistic thing I worked on was putting a layer of clouds around the Earth. This is just another sphere, but barely bigger. I used the simple noise nodes in Shader Graph to make some random spots where clouds would fade in and out. I probably spent too much time on this, but overall I'm pretty pleased with how it came out. The game was looking better now, but it was still totally silent. Time for some sound. I recorded some noises and applied a few effects. Bringing those into the game immediately gave the slicing more impact. I knew I'd need to show the players how much Earth was getting damaged when it got hit. Since I was feeling pretty good about the shaders I had made so far, I decided to show damage visually instead of with a traditional health bar. I realized I could draw a texture with these transparent areas in it and use that as a mask for the Earth. Anywhere that was transparent in the mask simply wouldn't render. I then put a smaller sphere inside the Earth and gave it a bright red material. This way, when the chunks of Earth go missing, you'll see the glowing core underneath. Up next, I wrote a small system that could focus the camera on a given object. For my early testing, I made a larger asteroid that required more slices, and did some play testing. Playing the game like this made me realize that there wasn't enough action. It was a pretty slow-paced game at this point. I didn't think I could speed up and spawn more asteroids, because when they spawn at the top or bottom of the screen, they were already pretty close to Earth. I decided to move Earth down to the bottom of the screen so that I could only spawn asteroids from the top and have them move quite a bit faster while still feeling fair. I also created the comet object, and that would be the special object for the camera focus instead of the large asteroids. After a big session of playtesting, I was in a spot where I could make some decisions to follow the fun. I think the fun of this more comes from like slashing through a bunch of things, not as much of like, oh, that's a tanky thing, hit it a few times. With that in mind, the next thing I did was modify the asteroid spawners to occasionally give me a clump of them all together. This would guarantee that players got some opportunities to slice through a group all at once. Now that there was a lot more clumping, it made sense to work on the combo system. The logic was pretty straightforward for this. Whenever you make a slice, you have a fixed amount of time to get another one and keep a combo counting up. If that time ever expired, your combo would reset. I made a text graphic that would be pretty easy to modify from code, so I could keep updating it with the combo amount. I hadn't planned on this, but I took it a step further and made a list of combo names as the counter got higher and higher. Ooh, I got some Beyond Godlikes. Sweet. I did a similar text pop-up for the number of hits you get on a comet. And after putting these in, it became pretty obvious that I needed to do another pass on sound effects to keep the game feeling polished. I banged some of my kitchen utensils together until I got a nice knife clanging sound, and a few filters on top of it, and we had a pretty nice hit sound. A couple lines of code later, and the sound would play at an increasing pitch each time you hit a comet. This pitch changing gave me a good idea for the rest of our sound effects. Some of them play very frequently, and it was almost painful to hear the exact same sound again and again that quickly. I had been planning to record more variations manually, but I tried just randomizing the pitch, and the repetitive pain went away. The next major piece I added to the game was a visual effect for the comet explosion. Previously, it just kind of ended and disappeared. I wanted something much juicier. I found and adapted a tutorial for making a black hole effect. The highlight of this shader is that it can warp the color of the scene to make it look like ripples going through space. Add on a glowing ring, make them both expand over time, slap in a sound effect, and we have a pretty cool explosion. There was one major part of the game left that hadn't really gotten any love in the sound and visuals department, and that's the Earth itself. Currently, when an asteroid hits the Earth, the crack just appears. Some things we can add to help sell this impact include a sound effect, a screen flash, and some camera shake. That's much better. I found some fitting music tracks to throw in the background, and that was just about it. Here's a look at how the finished game plays. The main critique I've gotten so far is that there's no punishment for just whipping your mouse back and forth. And that's a fair point. It's definitely possible to get a high score in the game with your eyes closed. I can't make changes to the game that I submitted since the scoring portion of the competition is still ongoing, but I did take a shot at solving this problem on my own. I gave the player an energy meter. As they're slashing, it depletes. When they stop slashing, it refills. And I wish I'd done this sooner, since it took a total of an hour to make the art and the code, and it absolutely turns it into more of a game than just a wrist exercise. But there's my entry for the Ludum Dare 50. Hope you enjoyed the breakdown. I'll leave some links in the description if you want to check the submission page or play the game. See you later.